And now joining us to discuss this Europe Day is Piotr Kaczyński, EU expert from the Geremek Foundation. Good morning and welcome to TVP World.
Good morning.
So now I'd like to start out by asking, what was the Schuman Declaration?
Well, Schuman Declaration was on the 9th of May in 1950. So this was 5 years after the war, when the Second World War was ended. And Schuman was basically Minister of Foreign Minister of France. And he had basically a problem. What to do? Because in 1950, the big problem was, would West Germany get a new army? And Americans and British were saying, yes, we need it. Why? Because the Korean War was about to start, and Americans were saying, ooh, there is a problem with the Soviets. So we need a defense somewhere in Europe, not only with the American army, but also new army, Western German army. And the French were like saying, no way, because we were having 3 wars with the Germans, 1870, 1914 and 1940. So what is going on here? And Schuman basically with Monnet, Jean Monnet basically had this new idea to start Europe where we are equals. And this is how this basically started.
And having that in mind, as we are celebrating today Europe Day, well, we are looking ahead to the future, as in just 1 month we'll be having European elections. So having that in mind, that we have around 400 million eligible voters, if you could bring us an overview, what is really at stake here?
Yeah, so next month we have this European elections, right? And there is 5 years ago, there was European elections as well. And 5 years ago, 200 million people were voting it. So European elections is the second biggest elections in the world after India. So the stake is very crucial here, the future of Europe. Are we going to change something? For example, we have Ursula von der Leyen in Katowice, who are saying that there is a security issue here. We need more security in the EU, not only NATO, but also in the EU. So will Europe start to building something like EU army, or what is going on in here? Again, another question is about Green Deal. What is the future of the Green Deal? And we'll see what will be the answers after 9th of June.
So now still much remains to be seen, but I'm wondering, what are some key factors that you think will influence the way that voters will cast their votes?
The key factors is definitely the fatigue, the general fatigue of the Europeans with the consequences of the events of the recent past, starting with the war in Ukraine and the energy prices and the hike of the energy prices. Then COVID situation and the fatigue with the health sector, and a lot of people lost their close ones, and they were unable to see any assistance, proper assistance coming from public services, being state, being EU. So there is definitely a general fatigue with what's going on, and maybe even certain negative feeling towards our general future, because as a continent we are experiencing depopulation, we are experiencing a situation where there's a migration pressure, there's a climate change pressure. I mean, if you even listen to the farmers in Poland today, they are not only protesting against Green Deal, but they are very upset about the climate change, because what happened with the fruits just last month, that is catastrophic for a lot of people.
And having that in mind, that we are truly facing now, like you mentioned, migration pressure, also some problems with the Green Deal, and it seems that now processes of having things, let's say, resolved and done are quite lengthy within European Union, as of now at least. Do you feel like perhaps now we are facing a tectonic shift as people are more, fed up really with what has been happening? Do you feel like perhaps now we'll see a political change also within European Union?
Could be. It's an open question because unity is on the line here. And we do not know what will be the future. Will we have more Orbáns in the European Council or not? This is a big question out there because this fatigue is not producing any alternative answers. That's the problem here. We see that those populist people who sometimes they are winning elections and they are not proposing any new answers, only old answers that are not really working.
So now some people are saying, just to add to what we've been talking about now, that the EU needs reform. Would you agree with that? And what areas of it would need this reform the most?
Well, EU needs reforms. To some extent it does, because we see that certain things do not work. But then for a lot of people, it would be opening up of the Pandora's box. And if we open the Pandora's box, meaning we reform the treaties, then a lot of things are open that are already settled. So the question here is about foreign policy and whether it needs unity or not, or maybe we can take decisions in foreign policy, such as sanctions on Russia, not by consensus, but by a certain type of majority, maybe a new majority. But for that, we need to change the treaties. And in order to change the treaties, you need to open the treaties. And in order to open the treaties, you may open a Pandora's box, because there are certain people who would like to see, for example, European Parliament gone, that it's not really important. So there is no consensus right now whether we will open the treaties. Probably the Europe needs to change. That's quite clear. But there will be something with the security and probably with health, whether it will be new treaties between EU member states, and after some time they will be integrated inside of the EU, what we have seen with Schengen. For example, 30 years ago, we'll see what will be the answers without opening the treaties, but address the questions out there about security and health.
And I would love to lastly also address now some security issues, as we have seen now a wave of cyber attacks coming from Russia, allegedly also coming from China and different European member states. So how to make sure that now these European elections, like you mentioned, which are the second biggest after India, how to make sure that these are true to what Europeans want and not some, let's say, external third parties?
That's a big question out there. How to defend Europe versus the world out there, especially the hostile countries such as Russia, to also to some extent China, and the answers are very clear that we can only do it together. There is no way that on alone Poland or Hungary or France or Germany, for that matter, can defend itself vis-à-vis those third countries. So how to protect this zone of freedom vis-à-vis those who want to exploit it? That's the question for the future. And those are the questions that basically everybody should be asking the candidates for the European Parliament.
So now with candidates being mentioned, and also you mentioned that, well, unity is on the line, and we see in many countries that right-wing parties are gaining seats in their parliaments. What do you think might happen if we were to see more, let's say, of these right-wing candidates also represent their countries in the European Parliament? And then, of course, that would mean that the center-left and Green parties would lose seats. What would this mean for the unity of the European Union?
We have seen 5 years ago that there was a clear center-left majority, and the centrist coalition that was established between the European People's Party, the Social Democrats, and the smaller political groups in between, meaning Renew Europe and the Greens, was a stable majority over last 5 years. On occasion, EPP was not necessary, and the far left would come in, and that would be, on occasion, quite useful. That is gone. This we know that this will no longer be possible. Most likely scenario is that the European conservatives and reformists are going up, but not exactly the ones we think about in Poland, not Law and Justice, which is projected to win fewer seats than 5 years ago. But European conservatives and reformists have a big spike in Italy. And Italians are coming in. And Giorgia Meloni, who's the prime minister there, she has been quite moderate. So it's a big question on the future of ECR here. What kind of face will have? Some moderation over there or more extreme face of ECR? Then we have Identity and Democracy, where very extreme parties are of Madame Le Pen or Mr. Salvini. He's getting out of his party in Italy, but also ECR has quite extreme people inside as well, Vox or Swedish Democrats. So there's a big picture over there, but we'll have no more center-left majority. This will be a centrist majority, and big question out there whether Ursula von der Leyen will defend her position as president of the Commission.
So, I think one thing is certain is that the future of European Union is unfolding before our very eyes, and future of Europe, such as we are celebrating a European Day today. Thank you so much, Piotr Kaczyński, for joining us today.
Thank you.